Marcus Wellington stared at the open safe, his heart pounding as he watched the security footage. Inside lay stacks of cash, expensive jewelry, and documents worth millions. His new cook, Isabella, had just walked into his study to deliver his morning coffee. She froze when she saw the safe, looked around nervously, then did something that would change both their lives forever. Before we continue, if you enjoy stories about trust, redemption, and unexpected connections, make sure to click that subscribe button. This is the best way for you to support our work. Thank you very much, and let's continue. Marcus had been alone for 3 years now, ever since cancer took his beloved wife, Catherine. The 45-year-old tech mogul had built an empire worth over $200 million, but money couldn't fill the void in his heart or heal the deep wounds of betrayal that followed Catherine's death. His own brother had tried to steal from him during the funeral arrangements. His business partner had attempted a hostile takeover while Marcus grieved. Even the housekeeper he'd trusted for a decade had been caught selling information about his personal life to tabloids. Trust had become a foreign concept to Marcus. Every new person who entered his life seemed to have an agenda, a price, or a scheme. His Manhattan penthouse, once filled with laughter and warmth, had become a fortress of solitude. He'd fired 7 housekeepers, 3 personal assistants, and countless service providers, all for various betrayals of trust. The loneliness was suffocating, but it felt safer than the alternative. That's when Isabella Martinez entered his life. She was 28, with warm brown eyes and an infectious smile that reminded Marcus of sunshine breaking through storm clouds. Isabella had responded to his job posting for a private cook, and during their interview, something about her felt different. She didn't ask about his wealth or fish for personal information like the others. Instead, she spoke passionately about cooking as an art form, about how food could heal souls and bring comfort to broken hearts. "I believe cooking isn't just about nourishment, Mr. Wellington," Isabella had said, her eyes sparkling with genuine enthusiasm. "It's about caring for someone, creating moments of joy in their day. When I cook for someone, I'm not just preparing a meal, I'm offering a piece of my heart." Marcus had hired her on the spot, though he kept his emotional walls firmly in place. For the first month, Isabella worked with quiet efficiency. She prepared magnificent meals that awakened taste buds Marcus had forgotten he possessed. Her homemade pasta reminded him of the little Italian restaurant where he'd proposed to Catherine. Her chocolate soufflé brought back memories of their anniversary dinners. But it wasn't just the food that impressed him. It was Isabella's respectful distance and professional demeanor. She never asked personal questions, never lingered longer than necessary, and never showed any interest in his wealth or possessions. She simply cooked, served, and disappeared back to the kitchen with a gentle smile. For the first time in years, Marcus felt a tiny crack forming in the walls around his heart. But Marcus Wellington hadn't survived the cutthroat world of business by being naive. His past experiences had taught him that everyone had a breaking point, a price at which their integrity would crumble. The question wasn't if Isabella would betray his trust, but when and how much it would cost him. So he devised a test. It was a cold Tuesday morning in November when Marcus implemented his plan. He deliberately left his personal safe wide open. In his study, positioned so that anyone delivering his morning coffee would see it immediately. Inside, he placed $50,000 in cash, Catherine's diamond necklace worth $250,000, and several important documents. He then positioned himself in his bedroom with a clear view of the security monitor, his coffee cup empty and waiting. At exactly 8 o'clock, Isabella knocked softly on the study door, carrying a silver tray with his usual morning coffee. A perfectly crafted cappuccino with a delicate foam art design she'd been creating lately to brighten his mornings. Marcus watched through the security feed as she entered the room, her face serene and focused on not spilling the hot beverage. Then she saw the safe. Isabella stopped dead in her tracks, her eyes widening as she took in the open vault and its valuable contents. The coffee cup rattled slightly against the saucer as her hands trembled. She looked around the room, clearly confused and concerned. Marcus leaned forward, his heart racing as he waited to see what she would do. Would she pocket some cash? Take a photo for later blackmail? Call someone to report the opportunity? Marcus had seen every variation of greed and betrayal in his 45 years, and he braced himself for another disappointment. But Isabella did none of those things. Instead, she quickly set down the coffee tray and rushed to the safe. Marcus watched in amazement as she began carefully closing the heavy door, her movements urgent but gentle. She spun the combination lock, then tested the handle to ensure it was properly secured. She even repositioned a decorative vase that had been moved aside, returning the study to its original appearance. Then Isabella did something that made Marcus's breath catch in his throat. She pulled out her phone and began typing rapidly. Within seconds, Marcus received a text message. "Mr. Wellington, I noticed your safe was left open when I delivered your coffee. I've secured it for you. I hope this was just an oversight and that nothing is missing. Please check when convenient. I'll be in the kitchen if you need anything. Isabella." Marcus stared at the message, reading it 3 times before the reality sank in. She hadn't taken anything. She hadn't even looked closely at what was inside. Her first instinct had been to protect him, to secure his valuables and alert him to the potential security breach. But the story doesn't end there. Over the following days, Marcus found himself studying Isabella with new eyes. He began to notice things he'd overlooked before. The way she always made extra food and quietly packaged the leftovers, claiming she didn't want them to go to waste. He discovered she was taking them to a homeless shelter downtown, feeding people with the same care and attention she showed him. He noticed how she always arrived 15 minutes early and stayed a few minutes late, not for overtime pay, but to ensure everything was perfect. How she remembered small details about his preferences and quietly adjusted recipes when she noticed he wasn't eating well. How she kept fresh flowers in the kitchen, brightening the space with her own money because she believed beautiful surroundings lifted the spirit. Marcus started leaving his study door open during Isabella's visits, not to test her anymore, but because he found himself looking forward to their brief interactions. She would update him on the meals for the day, ask if he had any special requests, and sometimes share a funny story about something that had happened at the farmer's market where she bought his ingredients. The vendor today told me the most amusing story about these tomatoes, Isabella would say with a laugh that filled the previously silent penthouse with warmth. Apparently, his grandmother used to say that tomatoes grown with love taste better than those grown with just water and fertilizer. I thought you might enjoy that sentiment. These small moments began to chip away at Marcus's carefully constructed emotional fortress. He found himself smiling more, looking forward to meals, not just for the excellent food, but for the few minutes of human connection Isabella brought to his isolated world. But it was on a snowy December evening that everything changed. Marcus had been working late in his study when he heard soft sobbing coming from the kitchen. Concerned, he made his way downstairs and found Isabella sitting at the small kitchen table, tears streaming down her face as she stared at her phone. Her usually immaculate appearance was disheveled, and her hands shook as she wiped her eyes. "Isabella, what's wrong?" Marcus asked, surprising himself with how much her distress affected him. She looked up, startled, and immediately began apologizing. "I'm so sorry, Mr. Wellington. I didn't mean to disturb you. I should go home. I can finish preparing tomorrow's meals in the morning." "Nonsense," Marcus said, moving closer. "Something's obviously upset you. What happened?" Isabella hesitated, clearly uncomfortable with burdening her employer with personal problems. But something in Marcus's tone, a gentleness she'd never heard before, made her defenses crumble. "It's my brother," she whispered. "He's in the hospital. He needs surgery, but I don't have the money for it, and the insurance won't cover everything. I've been saving every penny, working extra jobs on weekends, but it's not enough. The doctors say if he doesn't get the surgery soon..." Her voice broke, and fresh tears flowed. Marcus felt something shift inside his chest, a warmth he hadn't experienced in years. Here was this incredible woman who had protected his wealth without a second thought, who brought joy and care into his sterile world, and she was suffering, while he sat on millions he barely thought about. "How much do you need?" Marcus asked quietly. Isabella shook her head immediately. "Oh no, Mr. Wellington. I wasn't telling you this to ask for money. I would never... I just got the call, and I couldn't... I'm sorry, I should have composed myself before you saw me like this." "Isabella," Marcus said, his voice firm but kind. "How much do you need?" "The surgery costs $80,000, she whispered, then quickly added, "But I'm not asking you for anything. I'll figure something out. I always do." Marcus excused himself and returned a few minutes later with a check. Isabella's eyes widened as she saw the amount, not $80,000, but $150,000. "The extra is for recovery costs, physical therapy, and anything else your brother might need," Marcus explained. "And before you even think about refusing this or calling it a loan, let me tell you something." He sat down across from her, his eyes more serious than she'd ever seen them. "A month ago, I tested you. I left my safe open deliberately to see what you would do. I expected you to take something, to betray my trust like everyone else in my life has done. Instead, you protected me. You secured my safe and immediately told me about the potential security breach. You passed a test you didn't even know you were taking." Isabella's hand flew to her mouth in shock. You tested me?" "I did, and I'm not proud of it," Marcus continued. "But I'm grateful for what it revealed. You're not just an exceptional cook, Isabella. You're an exceptional person. You've brought light back into a home that had been dark for 3 years. You've reminded me that good people still exist in this world." Tears flowed freely down Isabella's face, but now they were tears of relief and gratitude. "I don't know what to say, Mr. Wellington. This is everything. You're saving my brother's life." "You saved something in me, too," Marcus replied, softly. "Call the hospital. Tell them the surgery is covered." But the story takes an even more beautiful turn. Over the next few months, as Isabella's brother recovered successfully from his surgery, something remarkable happened in the Wellington penthouse. The walls Marcus had built around his heart didn't just crack, they crumbled entirely. Isabella's presence had transformed not just his meals, but his entire outlook on life. She began staying later in the evenings, not for work, but because Marcus had started asking her to join him for dinner. What began as a gesture of gratitude evolved into something neither of them had expected. A deep, genuine friendship that slowly blossomed into something more. Isabella shared stories of her childhood in Mexico, of helping her grandmother cook traditional dishes, of coming to America with nothing but dreams and determination. Marcus opened up about Catherine, about the pain of loss, about the betrayals that had hardened his heart. He showed Isabella photos of his late wife, shared memories of their life together, and for the first time since Catherine's death, he could speak of her with joy rather than just sadness. Catherine would have loved you, Marcus told Isabella, one evening as they sat by the fireplace after dinner. She always believed that the measure of a person's character was what they did when no one was watching. You've proven your character over and over again. Isabella's eyes glistened. I would have loved her too. Anyone who could inspire such devotion in you must have been extraordinary. It was in that moment that Marcus realized something profound. Loving Isabella didn't diminish his love for Catherine. Instead, Isabella's presence had taught him that the heart's capacity for love wasn't limited, that healing didn't mean forgetting, and that moving forward didn't mean leaving the past behind. On a warm spring evening, 6 months after the safe incident, Marcus made a decision that would have seemed impossible a year earlier. He asked Isabella to marry him. The proposal wasn't elaborate or flashy. It happened in the kitchen where they'd shared so many conversations, where Isabella had created countless meals that nourished not just his body, but his soul. Marcus simply took her hands, looked into her warm brown eyes, and spoke from his heart. Isabella, you came into my life when I thought my capacity for trust and love had died with Catherine. You've shown me that goodness still exists, that integrity isn't extinct, that love can bloom again even in the most barren soil. I'm not asking you to replace anyone or fill a void. I'm asking you to build something new with me, something beautiful and true. Isabella's answer came through tears of joy and a kiss that tasted like forgiveness, hope, and new beginnings. Their wedding was intimate, held in the penthouse garden that Isabella had convinced Marcus to create on the terrace. Her brother, fully recovered and strong, walked her down the aisle. Marcus's few remaining true friends attended, amazed at the transformation they witnessed in him. The man who had become a bitter hermit was now radiant with happiness, his eyes alive with purpose and love. But perhaps the most touching moment came during their vows. Marcus spoke not just to Isabella, but to Catherine's memory as well. Catherine, thank you for teaching me how to love completely. Isabella, thank you for teaching me how to love again. Today, 2 years later, the Wellington penthouse is filled with laughter, warmth, and the incredible aromas of Isabella's cooking. She still prepares magnificent meals, but now she cooks for a family. Their first child, a daughter they named Catherine Isabella Wellington, fills the home with the same joy her mother brought to Marcus's life. Marcus often reflects on that cold November morning when he left his safe open. He had intended it as a test of integrity, but it became something far more valuable, the beginning of his redemption. The test revealed not just Isabella's character, but his own capacity for growth and healing. The safe sits in the study still, but its door is never left open by accident anymore. Instead, it protects something far more valuable than money or jewelry. It holds the love letters Marcus and Isabella write to each other, photos of their growing family, and mementos of their life together. Marcus learned that the greatest treasures aren't the ones you lock away in safes, but the ones you open your heart to receive. He discovered that trust, once broken, can be rebuilt stronger than before. Most importantly, he realized that sometimes the people who enter our lives as employees become family, that healing can come from the most unexpected sources, and that love doesn't diminish when shared, it multiplies. Isabella taught him that true wealth isn't measured in dollars, but in the depth of connections we make with others. She showed him that integrity isn't just about what we don't take when no one is watching, but about what we give when everything is on the line. The widowed millionaire who once tested everyone's honesty with an open safe now leaves his heart open instead, trusting in the goodness that exists in the world and the incredible woman who reminded him that he was worthy of love, loyalty, and happiness. And sometimes, late at night, when Isabella is cooking in their kitchen and their daughter is laughing in her high chair, Marcus stands in the doorway and marvels at how a simple test of character changed everything. He had opened a safe to test Isabella's integrity, but she had opened his heart to possibilities he thought were lost forever. The safe was just money and jewels. But what Isabella gave him was priceless. A second chance at love, at trust, at life itself. Their love story became legendary among those who knew them, but it was the smaller, everyday moments that truly defined their relationship. Marcus began accompanying Isabella to the farmer's market on Saturday mornings, something he'd never done in his previous life of isolation. He watched in amazement as she interacted with vendors, remembering their children's names, asking about their families, treating everyone with the same respect regardless of their social status. "You see that woman over there?" Isabella would whisper, pointing to an elderly lady selling homemade preserves. "Her husband died last year, and these preserves are her only source of income. I always buy extra, not because I need them, but because maintaining her dignity is more important than saving a few dollars." These moments taught Marcus lessons that his business school education and years of corporate success never could. Isabella showed him that true leadership wasn't about commanding from above, but about lifting others up. She demonstrated that real strength came not from protecting yourself from vulnerability, but from opening yourself to genuine human connection. The transformation in Marcus didn't go unnoticed in his professional life either. His business associates were stunned by the change in his demeanor during meetings. The man who once approached every negotiation as a battle to be won now sought collaborative solutions. His employees, who had previously feared his cold efficiency, began to see a leader who cared about their well-being beyond their productivity metrics. Marcus started implementing changes in his company that reflected Isabella's influence. He established an employee assistance fund, similar to how he had helped Isabella's brother, providing interest-free loans for medical emergencies. He began hosting monthly company dinners, prepared by Isabella and her growing team of assistant cooks, creating opportunities for genuine connection among his workforce. "You're becoming the leader Catherine always knew you could be," Isabella told him one evening after a particularly successful company event. "She would be so proud of the man you've become." But their path wasn't without challenges. Marcus's newfound openness and trust sometimes made him vulnerable to those who would exploit his changed nature. There were business rivals who saw his transformation as weakness, former associates who attempted to take advantage of his more collaborative approach. During one particularly difficult period, a former business partner named Richard Blackwood tried to manipulate Marcus's newfound empathy to secure a deal that would have cost Marcus millions. Richard had heard about Marcus's changed personality and thought he could exploit it. "You've gone soft, Marcus," Richard sneered during a tense boardroom meeting. The old you would have seen through this emotional manipulation nonsense. Love has made you weak. Isabella, who had been quietly observing from the back of the room where she'd brought afternoon refreshments, stepped forward with quiet dignity. "Mr. Blackwood, with respect, you're mistaken about what strength looks like. My husband hasn't become weak. He's become wise. The difference is that he now chooses his battles based on principle rather than profit alone." Her words, delivered with calm confidence, shifted the entire energy of the room. Marcus felt a surge of pride and love for this woman who could defend him without diminishing anyone else. The deal fell through, but Marcus gained something more valuable, the knowledge that Isabella would stand beside him through any challenge. This incident also revealed another dimension of their relationship. Isabella wasn't just Marcus's wife and the mother of his child. She had become his closest advisor and confidant. Her insights, born from genuine care for people rather than strategic thinking, often proved more valuable than the advice of his highest-paid consultants. As their daughter Catherine grew from a baby into a toddler, the Wellington home became a gathering place for an extended family of choice. Isabella's brother, Miguel, fully recovered and thriving as a physical therapist, became a regular visitor, bringing his own wife and children. The penthouse that had once echoed with loneliness now rang with the laughter of multiple generations. Marcus found himself playing uncle to Miguel's children, teaching them about business and technology, while Isabella and Miguel's wife, Carmen, cooked traditional family recipes in the kitchen. These Sunday gatherings became sacred traditions, filling Marcus with a sense of belonging he'd never experienced, even in his marriage to Catherine. "You know what's beautiful about this?" Isabella said one Sunday evening as they cleaned up after hosting 12 family members for dinner. "Catherine never got to see you as a father, but I think she's watching you now and seeing the man she always knew you could become." These words struck Marcus deeply. He had always feared that moving forward with Isabella somehow diminished his love for Catherine. But Isabella's wisdom helped him understand that love doesn't replace love. It expands it. Catherine's influence had shaped him into a man capable of the deep, trusting relationship he now shared with Isabella. The business world began to take notice of Marcus's transformation as well. He was invited to speak at conferences about ethicals, leadership, and corporate responsibility. His company's stock price soared not just because of financial performance, but because investors recognized the stability that came from authentic leadership. During one memorable keynote speech, Marcus shared the story of the open safe, though he kept Isabella's identity private. "I thought I was testing someone else's character," he told the audience of business leaders. But that test revealed my own character instead. It showed me that I had become so focused on protecting myself from betrayal that I had forgotten how to recognize genuine goodness when it stood right in front of me. The speech went viral, with business publications calling it a masterclass in vulnerability and authentic leadership. But Marcus knew the real credit belonged to Isabella, whose integrity had sparked his own moral awakening. As their second wedding anniversary approached, Marcus planned a surprise that would honor both his past and his future. He had been secretly working with architects to design a new wing of their penthouse, a cooking school where Isabella could teach others her craft. But this wasn't just any cooking school. It was designed to be a place where people could learn not just culinary techniques, but the art of nurturing others through food. The school would offer free classes to single parents, elderly individuals, living alone, and anyone who wanted to learn how cooking could become an act of love and connection. Isabella had often spoken about her dream of teaching others that cooking was about more than following recipes. It was about creating moments of joy and comfort for the people you care about. On the morning of their anniversary, Marcus blindfolded Isabella and led her to the newly completed space. When she removed the blindfold and saw the beautiful kitchen classroom, complete with professional equipment and a wall displaying her grandmother's traditional recipes that Marcus had secretly translated and framed, she broke down in tears. This is everything I've ever dreamed of," she whispered, running her hands over the marble countertops and state-of-the-art appliances. "But how did you know?" "Because I listened to you," Marcus replied simply. "Because every dream you've shared with me has become important to me too. Because watching you teach our daughter to make cookies showed me that your gift for nurturing people through food is too precious to keep in just one kitchen." The Isabella Wellington Culinary Heart, as it came to be known, opened 6 months later with great fanfare. Food critics, celebrity chefs, and business leaders attended the opening, but Isabella insisted that the first class be taught to a group of foster children who had aged out of the system and needed to learn life skills. "Cooking gives you the power to take care of yourself and others," Isabella told her first students, many of whom had never experienced the kind of nurturing that good food represents. "When you cook with love, you're not just feeding bodies, you're feeding souls." Marcus watched from the observation area, his heart full as he saw Isabella in her element. This was her true calling, and by supporting it, he had found his own purpose as well. His wealth, which had once seemed like a burden that attracted only those with ulterior motives, had become a tool for amplifying Isabella's ability to spread love and care throughout their community. The cooking school's success exceeded everyone's expectations. Students didn't just learn to prepare meals, they learned to see cooking as an act of self-care and community building. Many of Isabella's students went on to start their own small businesses, armed with both culinary skills and the confidence that comes from being truly seen and valued. But perhaps the most profound impact of the school was on Marcus himself. By supporting Isabella's dream, he had discovered that true fulfillment came not from accumulating wealth, but from using resources to lift others up. He began applying this philosophy to all aspects of his business, creating programs that supported employee education, community development, and social entrepreneurship. The man who had once viewed every relationship through the lens of potential, betrayal now approached life with an open heart and generous spirit. The safe that had once tested Isabella's integrity now held something even more valuable: the deeds to affordable housing projects Marcus funded, scholarship programs he established, and other investments in human potential rather than just financial returns. As little Catherine took her first steps around the penthouse, toddling between her parents with squeals of delight, Marcus marveled at how completely his life had been transformed. The child who bore his first wife's name was being raised by the woman who had taught him how to love again, creating a beautiful bridge between his past and future. "Do you think Catherine would approve of who I've become?" Marcus asked Isabella, one evening as they watched their daughter sleep peacefully in her crib. Isabella took his hand and squeezed it gently. "I think both Catherines would be incredibly proud of the man, husband, and father you are today. You've learned that the greatest security doesn't come from locked safes, but from open hearts. You've discovered that real wealth isn't what you hoard, but what you share. Most importantly, you've shown that it's never too late to become the person you were meant to be." That night, as Marcus lay beside Isabella listening to her gentle breathing and their daughter's soft sighs from the nursery, he reflected on the journey that had brought them all together. A simple test of honesty had revealed the most honest thing of all, that love, trust, and genuine human connection were the only treasures truly worth protecting. The safe in his study remained locked, but Marcus's heart stayed open, ready to embrace whatever beautiful surprises life might bring to his growing family.